welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Thank you for coming back. I'm your host, Karen E. Osborne, and we have a fascinating guest today. You know, we do so much fiction on this show, but we have a wonderful nonfiction writer today. Her name is Joan Griffin. Hey, Joan.
Hi there. How are you?
Great, and I'm so glad you're on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. My pleasure. So let me just tell you, I'm fascinated by all this. So Joan is the author of Force of Nature. You said you had a copy of it handy? Look at this gorgeous cover. Force of Nature. And this is how it was described. I went to her website, and this is the description I found. A gripping adventure memoir enriched by vivid nature writing. Force of Nature will carry you along the John Muir Trail with the three women. She went on this trip with there's two other women. Experience the terror of lightning at 11,000 feet, the joy of dancing among midnight moon shadows. I love that. And the triumph of standing atop mountains. It just sounds wonderful description of an adventure. So is an adventure memoir, is that like a thing, or is that unique to your book?
I think it is a thing. I don't know that Amazon would agree that it was a thing in their categories, but I think there are a lot of books out there where authors describe grand adventures they've had, whether it's traveling or hiking in the wilderness or whatever. And I think it's a unique slice of memoir.
And Amazon will catch up. They'll figure it out. So tell us how, let's start with your love of nature. Let's start with that before we talk about your writing. How did that manifest itself? How did it come about?
Well, I think I was raised in a family. My dad was quite the adventurer. My mom, not so much. My mom thought roughing it was staying in Motel 6. But we still went on, we traveled a lot and went to a lot of places in California and the United States. So I think I developed that bit of a wanderlust and a seeking of adventure. But it wasn't until I was married and a teacher, and we had a small child, that we bought a small rustic motorhome. And every summer we traveled all around the United States, staying in national parks and state parks and by mountains and creeks, and did a lot of hiking. And that was when I got my taste, my obsession even, with nature and the out of doors, and realized that I healed there. My mind, that anxiety, that think, plan, worry went away when I was out there. And then as my son grew older, and I was divorced by then, my son grew older and became a Boy Scout. And I was introduced to backpacking and camping, and I just dove in head first. First, I borrowed his old equipment first, and then I got my own. And now I have several sets.
That is wonderful. And does your son still enjoy it?
Oh my goodness, yes. He's nearly 40 years old, though, and lives on the East Coast. So we don't go hiking together very often, but he just went hiking yesterday, in the White Mountains. So yes, definitely.
That's cool. That is
Yeah, I have a
excellent.
minor case of wanderlust. He has a dramatic case.
So it sounds like you've had many adventures over the years. So
Yeah.
why did you pick this one to write about as your memoir, your adventure memoir?
This, I think most people who have hiked the John Muir Trail will tell you it's a life-changing experience. We spent 27 days and walked 200 miles with 40 pounds on our backs. We started in Yosemite, a gorgeous national park, hiked through Kings Canyon and Sequoia National Parks, and ended up at the top of Whitney at 14,500 feet, all the while in the wilderness, never coming out to a town. We stopped at a couple of places to pick up our food caches because you can't carry 27 days worth of food. So it's unique in the sense that you were out away from people all the time. Yes, you run into one or two people a day, but you're alone out there, one. And a lot of people consider it to be the most beautiful long distance trail in the world. It's truly through the heart of the Sierra. About half of it is above tree line, so you're on top of the world. You stand on top of one of those mountains and you can literally see, well, not literally, you can almost literally see forever. You can certainly see until the curvature of the earth stops, you know. You walk through miles of wildflowers. You wade through rivers. I mean, it is just so different than going for a weekend of camping.
That sounds amazing.
I wanted to share it. I came back from the trip. I want to share this. I have to share this. It's beyond belief. I have to share it.
And had you done hikes and things with the two women that you went with? Were these close friends, fellow hikers for a long time?
I knew Jane and Cappy for many years, but we were never close friends. More acquaintances or short-term friends. But now we are like sisters. You know, we did that trip together and we see each other all the time. So we ramped up for that hike together. We did a lot of hiking together to prepare for it. But since coming back, I mean, we are very close friends. So it was a real bonding experience. You know, people talk about going into the Army and now you're bonded with those people forever because you've gone through these experiences. Obviously, this is much more minor scale than that. But it's that same thing. You've gone through some real events together, real challenges and solved problems.
It just sounds so exciting. So what do you want? I'm sure that there are so many people now who are saying I have to read that book, but just for the ones that are still wondering, still on the fence, what do you think that the reader will get from this? What's their takeaway? Because besides gorgeous writing, what do they get? What do you want them to?
You know, you ask every author that. What do you want them to take away? And I think there's really kind of two things. One, and they're both kind of universal. I think one is the healing power of nature. Mother Nature is the greatest healer in the world, whether you're depressed or anxious or scared or at a place in your life where you don't know what to do. Going out into nature, spending time out there fills you with peace and gives you time to think and feel in a way you can't in civilization. When you read the book, you see that I had a traumatic event happen. A dear friend of mine was killed in an accident with a drunk driver, and I was just devastated. I was just knocked off my feet for a long time, grieving. And I took that with me out into nature, and it really became the salve for that. And I worked through it. And I think that's true for everyone. I know there's a lot of science behind that, actually. The other thing I think is even more universal in the sense that we all have huge goals. You know, I want to be thus and such when I grow up. I want to try this. I want to learn that. Maybe it's getting a new degree. Maybe it's a new job. Maybe it's learning Spanish. Maybe it's going on a 200-mile hike or running a marathon.
Or writing a book. Maybe it's writing
a book. Absolutely. Talk about a marathon. So often we say, I'll do it next. I'll do it next year. whatever, and keep putting it off. And then suddenly we can't do it. It's too late. And this is one of those things. I couldn't do this hike now. I'm older now and I couldn't, but I've done it and it's mine. And it impacted me. And so I hope people come away inspired, empowered, enthused to take something on. And like you said, I hope they feel like with my writing, I've picked them up and immersed them in the place. I want that to happen, but
if they can see it. And isn't that one of the best things about books? We transport people, and you're transporting them to some place extraordinary. So that's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
You also have a blog, right? You also write your blog. So what is that about? What can people look forward to in reading your blog?
It's random. It's eclectic, right? I mean, I went into it with the idea I was going to write one regularly once a month, and that is really hard to do, which I'm sure you know, trying to put these interviews on a regular schedule. It's very hard. But I write about whatever inspires me in the moment. So it might be a beautiful hike full of wildflowers. It might be having gone to the museum and seeing an amazing display by a female artist. It might be a bike ride. It might be a book or a series of books that I read. So it's kind of things that I want to share because they touched my heart and a spark in me, and I want to share that spark. And there's usually a lot of photos in there because I love photography.
You know, that is so special because it's very intimate then. You know, you're sharing who you are over and over again. And so I'm sure your readers feel like they know you. They know you, you know, that you're friends.
How validating for you to say it that way. I'm going to remember that when I doubt myself.
So are you working on anything now?
Yes, something pretty different. It's still a memoir, but I was adopted. I was one of those 1950s out of wedlock shameful births. And I was given up for adoption when I was an infant. And with modern technology, I have found both halves of my birth family. My birth mother found me in the 90s, and Amazon Ancestry, DNA connected me with 4 siblings on my birth father's side. And it has been quite the adventure to meet these people because the family stories that have been passed on don't match. The DNA matches, but the version of what really happened doesn't match at all. So I think it's going to be a very interesting look at social norms of the day and the impact of those 4 adults, my birth parents and my adoptive parents, the decisions those 4 adults made had on all of us in the next generation.
Wow, that's powerful. We adopted our daughter. It was, in the 70s, and it was zero population growth, and women, to be liberated women, stop making babies, and let's save the babies of the world.
Right.
So we saved one.
Good for you.
And she saved us, but she's through Ancestry, she's found relatives. But unfortunately, her birth mother has rejected her, doesn't want to have anything to do with her, which is so hard.
It is.
Adoption and foster care are topics very close to my heart because we adopted her out of foster care. We were her 4th parents in 2 years of life. 4th in 2 years of life. So that was trauma. That was serious trauma.
you and I should talk off camera sometime, because I have a lot of very strong opinions about those first months and years of life for an
Yes,
adoptee.
yes, I would love to talk to you about that. It's had of course, a profound effect on our daughter, but it does affect the whole family. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, very close to me. My first novel is a girl who ages out of foster care because nobody did adopt her.
That's
Yeah,
heartbreaking. Absolutely
that
heartbreaking.
is that is very, very hard. So now we can't end without talking about what you're reading. Because this is what are you reading? What are you writing? And I have to
Right.
switch the name because I always ask about reading last. But tell us what you're loving these days, something you've read recently, or maybe you read it a little while ago. But what can you recommend to our?
I tend to vacillate back and forth between fiction and nonfiction, because I teach in a senior program at the local junior college. So I read a lot of nonfiction. But for my real pleasure reading, I think my favorite book recently, and I think it's everybody's favorite, tried on everyone's list, is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus.
Yes,
Oh
yes,
my goodness.
yes.
I laughed so hard reading that book, and yet it's serious. It's super
Mm.
ultra serious, and yet it's hysterical. And I'm so glad it's going to be made into a TV series, because I think it has so much potential to give a really good message about women in culture and misogyny and all of that, while at the same time
While
being
you're laughing.
entertaining. Oh my gosh, yes. Kind of like Barbie. Another one that I really enjoyed was Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by,
Yes,
what's her name? Anna Ray Jeffers, I think. Um, Such an epic story with
really.
these two or three families that just weave in and out, and everybody's got secrets all along the way. And then it kind of all comes out in the end when this young researcher historian kind of puts all the pieces together with these giant aha moments. And it's such a panorama of American history.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but I've been doing a lot of how did I not know that
Yes,
thinking.
yes,
And I think it was,
yes.
all kicked into gear with the Black Lives
Matter.
Matter movement during the pandemic. And I read a lot of things, and through my classes, I taught a lot of book classes where we discussed them. So I felt like that Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois put together a lot of those disparate pieces of how did I not know that?
Saw a thread and you see a thread, you see a
Yeah, and put it in a story so it was more digestible, and had her doing that. How did I not know that? In the end, I felt, even though I'm a continent away and a color and two generations separate, I still felt like I understood what she was doing with her ahas. And then
yeah,
another
that's
one
a great
is
book.
Braiding Sweetgrass.
Oh,
Robin
I don't
Wall.
know that one. Say it
Oh
again?
gosh, Braiding Sweetgrass.
Mm,
It's a memoir, but it's so much more than that. She's a botanist and a Native American. And it's this memoir of growing up half Native American, but not knowing a lot of her background, but also being a trained botanist professor. And how do you look at the land? Do you look at the
mm.
land through the eyes of a Native American culture tradition? Do you look at it as a scientist, or do you look at it as a modern American that basically harvests everything for our benefit? And
Mm.
but it's so gently
Oh,
and profoundly written. Oh my gosh.
oh, that sounds wonderful. I love coming out of these conversations with new books to read. It always gives me so lots of times I know the books that I'm aware, like this time, the first two books you mentioned are books that I've had the pleasure of reading. I had not even ever heard of this one. So thank you. Thank you for sharing it. So our audience is desperate to buy your book. They are desperate to read your blog, and they want to be in touch with you. So how can they find you on the internet?
Well, my website is very easy. It's www.joangriffin.us, not com or net, but so joangriffin.us. That's my website, which has a link to my blog. But you can go directly to my blog on Substack, and it's just joangriffin.substack.com. And of course, I'm on Facebook as Joan Griffin author. But if you go to the website, it'll take you to either of the other places.
Any of the places. And please, when you do go there and you do follow Joan, please let her know that you met her on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I hope to see you guys next week for another episode. Thanks, everybody.